Good morning. Happy Monday. How's it going? Welcome to Project Freelance. I am your host, Kay Nagonio, and this is a podcast about freelancing. Every single week, I bring you a different guest from a different industry to share their story about how they got started as a freelancer, how they grew their business, and where they're at now. So this week on Project Freelance, I am joined by my friend Grizzlee Martin. He is a photographer. He also is a project manager for Foxtail Coffee in Florida, and I wanted to have him on the podcast to share his insights on photography, live music photography. He also shoots for magazines, so I wanted to know how he got involved with those so that you freelance photographers out there that want to start getting published can get some insight from this episode. So we're going to get into this episode of Project Freelance, but first, I have to let you know that I have a book out called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, and it is about abandoned buildings that I have explored over the past few years. If you guys are looking for a great gift for somebody, or if you just like my photography and you want to see more of it and hold some of it in your hands, pick up a copy of No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. A link will be down in the description for you. Not only that, but there are also a bunch of links down in the description for things like camera gear, backpacks, solar chargers for your gear, all kinds of stuff down there. And there is also some stuff that will help you keep track of your expenses, get ready for tax season. Even though when you're listening to this, tax season will probably be over. So you can download it now and be ready for next year when you have to pay your taxes next year. All right, let's jump into this episode with Grizzlee Martin. Grizzlee, please introduce yourself and what it is you do to the Project Freelance audience.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Grizzlee Martin. I am a professional photographer. Been shooting for like 10 years, around almost 11 now. I've done a lot of different shoots for different magazines like Krang and AP, a lot of different bands and things like that. I lived in LA for a few years and got to kind of run the gamut of touring and do some cool stuff. And now on top of doing photography, I'm also a project manager for a local coffee company here in Orlando called Foxtail Coffee, where I basically oversee, all of the building of the new stores and maintenance of the stores that we currently have and all things coffee every day. So it keeps me alive and awake, and I'm loving it.
Amazing. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you got into photography in the first place. What was your start? How did you get your start? And what was your first camera you shot with?
This is awesome. I actually just told this story, a little portion of the story. Basically, we do an event here in Orlando called Playlist Live, which is like a big YouTube convention kind of thing, content creators and all that. And some of the video team that was there actually like interviewed me about it. So I've got it fresh in my head. So this is good to go. Basically, around 10, 11 years ago, so a few of my friends were doing like Tumblr blogs and things like that, and just kind of like, getting into the whole MySpace internet. It was like after MySpace, post that kind of social media was starting out a little bit. And I decided, hey, I'm going to make a little Tumblr blog. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to get a little point and shoot camera and just take photos of my friends locally and kind of when we're hanging out and just document the days and whatever, life, kind of like vlogs, but without video. So I started doing that and taking photos for friends here and there. I started getting hit up by a few people like, hey, like, what do you do for photos? And I'm like, oh, this is just like a personal thing. I wasn't really like looking into it being anything at all. And my buddy, Brian Miller, actually took me to a Billy Joel show one night, which is like one of my favorite artists of all time. We went to Fort Lauderdale to the Hard Rock to see Billy Joel. I kind of snuck my point and shoot camera into my jacket pocket. And throughout the show, it was like, snapping a few photos here and there. It had like 10 times optical zoom or something stupid like that. So it was like, oh, I can be in my seat and kind of zoom in on Billy and get some cool photos. And after I looked through those photos that night, I was like, holy crap, like I want to learn how to actually take photos and be like, do this for real. So I ended up selling my electric guitar rig, my amp, my guitar, and all that I had been touring on for a few years prior, to get the money to then buy my first actual DSLR kit, which I decided at the beginning, I did some research and I was like, okay, I'm going to go with Nikon. I got a Nikon D40, got a few of the kit lenses, and it kind of all just started moving from there. Some of the first things that I did was that one of those shoots I did was like a behind the scenes shoot for a Hey Monday video in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then I started hitting up by bands that I had toured with previously saying like, hey, do you want to do some photos for us here and there? And then it kind of just blossomed. It was like, I think it started in like April, and by July, people were asking me like, "Hey, what do you charge for photos?" And I'm like, "Charge? What? Like, I can make money from this? Like, what?" Like, I had no idea that it was even a possibility. And then after that, I kind of got the itch and the passion and just delved completely into it. So then it took me to now, you know? Sorry, I was gonna say a long and winding road.
Can you talk a little bit about going from being in your seat to being behind a barricade to being, in the photo pit for the first time? I would love to hear a little bit about your first experience and what that was like for you.
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember what the first barricade was. I think it was most likely probably Warped Tour, because a lot of photographers that are starting out, the Warped Tour was always, back in the day, they were always awesome with like letting people in to shoot for different, whether it was a smaller publication or a larger one. I basically had seen and experienced that, kids that were shooting for local publications and things like that, or like even like a local website, were able to, get a photo pass from Warped Tour and be able to shoot the show. So I'm pretty sure that was one of my first experiences. And Warped Tour, it's like the days are long. It's a hot and sweaty day, and you're kind of just with everybody. But it was definitely interesting, that first moment when you like show your little credential and you're able to get into that barricaded area where it's not the whole crowd pushing up on you and you're trying to get a cool shot. It's like you actually have a little bit of freedom and a little bit of movement. And it was weird. For me, it was crazy. It was like, what is even going on? This is awesome. But I think the coolest thing from that, like moving after that, was when bands started actually contacting me and saying, "Hey, like, we want you to either go on tour with us or, shoot this one-off show that we have in our area." And the first time that, one of those things happened, it was like, then the band's like, "Oh, well, you have like all access, so you can go on the stage and shoot from the stage." And just being able to see the different angles and the different kind of images you can capture and get from those different moments that most people are not allowed to have, it's a crazy experience. It's awesome. You definitely like see things differently. You have a lot more things that you could do creatively. And it's really cool.
So how did you find your value and your worth when it came to, charging people for your photography work?
Yeah, guessing game. It was all legitimately a guessing game at the beginning. It's really I feel like everyone has this problem when they're starting out, and it's not more of a problem, more just like of a hurdle that they have to overcome. And it's that thing where it's like, there's so many different things that are undervalued in different businesses in general. I feel like photography at some points in the lower tier spectrums of music is definitely an undervalued art, because there's so many photographers, there's so many people that are willing to create content, and then there's so many different firms, management firms and companies and bands that are saying, "Hey, like, if we can get this person to shoot for free, let's do it." So at the beginning, at the beginning I was shooting for friends and shooting for free. Then when people were asking what I charged, I would just come up with a number and be like, "Hey, what do I want to get paid for this? I'm going to spend an hour. Do I want to get $50?" And then it would grow from there. I then between starting photography and actually like becoming completely proficient at it, I started doing weddings, and that was what I really cut my teeth in, because it was like, weddings, you can't turn around and shoot something that you just shot and hope that you get that shot if you mess up. It's like you only have the one moment, the one time, and it's something that you really need to be focused in on and make sure that everything that you're doing is correct. And because of that, you're able to charge a bit more as you get more proficient in shooting weddings and doing things like that. So I think that the buildup of going from shooting my first wedding for like $250 to my next one for $500 and my next one for $1,000, and then going on and on from there, kind of made me realize, what my value and what my worth was for the imagery I was creating. And then it was really hard to transfer that into the music world, because obviously, a couple shooting a wedding or having their wedding photographed for them, sometimes that's much more of a value to that couple than a band with like a live shot. Mm-hmm. If it's promotional photos or something for an album, that might be different. But it was always a hard sell when it was like, how do I take these live pictures and then sell them to the band? And then that's when, magazines and different publications come into play, because then and they're willing to kind of throw you some bones for the work that you're doing,
And how did you get in touch with these magazines, or how did they find you? I love hearing about people that get to be in publications, because it's such a unique and beautiful thing to see your art printed like that. So tell me a little bit about getting to work with these magazines.
At the beginning of me doing photos, every time I would take a new photo of some band, I ended up I just went online and found out who the publisher for Alternative Press was. And it was this guy at the time named Norman Wonderly. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to bug the crap out of this guy until he either responds and tells me that I'm crap, or responds and says, hey, let's do something, or just blocks my email. I didn't even know what was going to happen. I was like, I'm just going to keep emailing him every time that I shoot something new, give him 3 new photos, and just, once or twice a month, I would send him an email. And at one point I get an email back hey, Chris, these are pretty good photos. We've got a shoot that's happening that a photographer kind of bailed on, and we need somebody in the Orlando area. Are you willing to do it? And I'm like, my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. It was the first photo I ever shot for AP, and it was of Germany from a day to remember up in Ocala. And I think one of the shots was a ridiculous shot of him with one of his favorite pizzas in his lap, and he kind of had a microphone sticking out of the middle of the pizza, which it was a little racy at the time. But there was another one that was taken, in one of the I don't know if it's a cavern or a sinkhole, or it was a sinkhole, yeah, in Ocala, and that both of those ended up getting published at different times. But that was the craziest thing. The fact that the persistence that I had with hitting this guy up, that he was definitely annoyed by me, but he took the time to look at the emails, I guess, and it worked out. So after that, I then basically started forming a relationship with other people at AP. And Christopher Benton was one of the main guys that I worked with through the years, that kind of brought me from doing articles here and there, Know Your Lifer articles, different things like that, and then bringing it up to asking me to do covers. And the day that he asked me to do a cover was just the craziest day of my life, because I was like, holy crap, I'm getting the cover of AP. This doesn't make any sense. This is awesome. And it was great.
And what was that shoot? What was that cover shoot?
That's what I'm trying to think of. Let me go to my website, try to figure it out. I'm like, what the heck was that? Because I've now at this point I've done so many for AP and for Krang, and I just did one for Rock Sound recently. Let's see, I've got to search. Oh, the first cover wasn't actually a full magazine. It was a mini mag that they did for A Day to Remember as well. So they did one of those 10 or 12 page mini magazines that had a bunch of cool merchandise with it and posters and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they called me about that, and I was just like, this is crazy. So basically I spent the day with the guys up in Ocala at their studio doing a bunch of different shots. And I can't even find it on my website, but that was definitely the first one that was a small cover. The first actual cover, yeah, it was the shot of Spencer Chamberlain of Sleepwave, Tyler from Issues, and Chris Carrabba in Twin Forks. And so there were 2 separate covers, and I did that one, and someone else, I think Jonathan Wiener, did the other side of it, but I'm not. Yeah, Jonathan Wiener did the other side. The second cover that had come out, and then we composited the inside spread together, which was crazy.
Wow.
It was both of us editing and working on it. It was really cool.
Man, that's so sick. What was it like to work with these bands that you, I'm sure, listened to and maybe looked up to, because you're also a musician as well?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I toured for years, and that shoot was actually really cool, in particular because I'm obviously a huge fan of Dashboard. But Chris and I actually know each other from South Florida. So we've gone back through the years. So he ended up actually calling me the night before the shoot. He was like, hey, I'm getting to Orlando a little bit early. You want to hang out? And we ended up hanging before the shoot. I drove him to the shoot that next day. So it was a really cool kind of dude, this is, I'm like one of your biggest fans, and we're just chilling it's nobody's business, But yeah, I mean, anytime that I work with with like some of the artists that I have, it's all really, I mean, it changes throughout the years because you get more comfortable being in situations that might be like nerve wracking or awkward to you. Like at first when I shot the Foo Fighters, I walked in the building and I was like trembling because I was like, holy crap, like this is one of the coolest things I've ever done. And like, it was one of the biggest shoots I've ever had. And I had to do it all in like 20 minutes, basically, like 3 different setups. But throughout the shoot, we kind of just like, I joked around with the guys and like, we kind of built up this really quick rapport that worked out really well. And by the end of it, Dave Grohl actually, like, I said to him, I was like, dude, being that I'm a musician, I was like, dude, is the Neve board here, which is the mixing board that he bought, that so many different bands have recorded on, from Fleetwood Mac to Nirvana to the Beatles have done songs on it. And he like, his eyes light up. He looks at me, he's like, you're a musician too? I'm like, yep. He's like, come with me now. And he brings me into the freaking control room of their studio in Northridge, LA, like it's, you know, right by you. And then shows me this board and he's like, you want to touch it? You want to move one of the faders? And I'm like, what? He's like, yep, I don't have anything on tape. You can flip it up and down if you want. I'm like, holy crap. So I move it up and down, one of the faders, one of the volume faders. And he's like, how did that feel? I'm like, I literally feel like I just touched music history. Like, this is insane. I mean, I did. Like, it's crazy. And he was awesome. Like, he gave me a big hug afterwards and was like, all right, man. He's just like, he's the sweetheart of rock and roll. He's the nicest freaking dude ever. And he cares so much about the music he puts out there. So that was a super cool experience. That was super nerve wracking at the beginning, but really awesome at the end.
And how long did it take for freelancing as a photographer to start paying your bills? Was it a short thing? Did it take a while? And did you have any real jobs, quote unquote, as well to supplement your income?
At the beginning, like when I first started, I was working with actually my best friend in the whole world, Alex Checkman. I was actually working with him. I'm working with him now. He is one of the co-founders of Foxtail. But I was working with him back then with AKT Enterprises, which is a merchandising company, and I was the director of merchandising at that point. And then I found photography. I basically did it for about, I think it was like 6 to 8 months when I was like building it. And then I realized, you know what, I'm just gonna do this. Like I was so passionate about it. I was so driven. I was like, I don't want to sit, you know, on the phone in an office all day long anymore. Like, I don't want to be running presses. Like, I want to get out and take photos and do my thing. So I ended up like literally like 8 months in, just kind of quitting my job and jumping into it head first. And it was super scary at first. I think the biggest thing that really helped me was the fact that at that time I was like doing weddings and doing other events, which, you know, supplementing that income photography wise is a lot easier than it is in the music business. Because in the music business, it's all about, you know, right place, right time, who you know, who knows you kind of thing, you know? So I was able to start, you know, making a living and paying my bills pretty quickly just because I was like, I threw myself into it and I gave myself no other option. I was like, I'm not going to get a job at a fast food place. I'm not going to like do delivery driving or anything like that. Like, I'm just going to do my thing and push forward and kind of, you know, work my butt off and hope that something happens from it. And it ended up working out.
That's awesome. So have you ever had any internships anywhere?
I personally never really did any internships per se. At the beginning of doing photos, Gage Young, who is a great photographer, works at a creative agency these days, but he was actually doing a cover shoot for AP for Day to Remember, like a year, not a year, well, yeah, probably about a year before I got the mini mag one. And I, you know, he like hit me up and asked me and this other guy, Joe Perry, who's actually an awesome photographer, still rocking it to this day. He asked both of us to kind of like assist him on the shoot. So that was really, you know, that I guess that would be the closest thing to any kind of internship, because we were basically like holding lights and, you know, moving stuff around, helping anything that Gage needed. So it was a great like learning experience to be like on a job, seeing how stuff goes and kind of doing it like while it's happening, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So who are some of your influences when it comes to photography?
See, that's a hard one, because I kind of like made a weird pact with myself when I first started. Like we've said, I was a musician for years before, and still play here and there. But I put out some albums, and I toured and whatnot. And when I wrote, I always like kind of took bits and pieces of my favorite artists and like pieced them together, and kind of like took inspiration from a little too far, maybe, let's say. So like I never really feel like I found, when I was doing my music, I never really feel like I found my like signature sound. So when I started doing photography, I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen to me. Like for this, I need to like totally be myself, and kind of like I allowed myself to like look at magazines and see other work like that was out there, but I didn't really want to like look at one particular photographer and be like, I want to emulate this, or I want to like figure this out, because I really wanted I wanted my lighting and the way that I shot to be all me. And I think that through the years I've changed lighting techniques here and there. I've done different things. I've experimented with many different things, but I think my biggest thing is that I'm more interested in like the moment, like capturing some kind of moment that you could feel emotion in, or you can feel something in, is like, it's much more important than the technicality of the photo. Even more important than if the photo is like perfectly tack sharp or anything. It's like, if you can convey some sort of emotion or some sort of feeling through the visual that you're creating, then that's like one of the most important things.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about capturing that emotion and that rawness, that realness. And I wanted to now ask you about Foxtail. How did that come into play? Where did your love of coffee start?
I've always drank coffee. It was always usually like Starbucks and whatnot, wherever I could like get a quick cup of it, if I'm like on the run or going to a job or something like that. But this whole thing really started for me. It was more like a love of my best friend, and the work that he was doing, seeing what he was providing to the community here in Orlando, because now they basically started with one shop, and then he has kept expanding, and now we have 13 stores here in Orlando that are open, that are providing jobs to people here in Orlando locally. And it's a really, really cool thing, and it's a cool community that they've built. So, I mean, I moved back to Florida around 2.5 years ago, and I had every intention of like starting kind of a marketing firm here in Orlando, taking like all the knowledge that I've learned, out in LA, and putting that towards kind of trying to push the envelope a little bit for brands and businesses and companies here in Florida. And within that time that I was kind of setting that up, it kind of like everything kind of like switched and segued. And Alex was like, he hit me up. He's like, hey, like, we're opening the store. We need some help with this aspect and that aspect. Can you assist just for like a few weeks? And I was able to, and we got it open and everything was good. And then, excuse me. And then basically one day his like main project manager left, and Alex calls me. He's like, dude, this guy left, blah, blah, blah. I need somebody who knows me, who knows what I like, who I can trust, and, who basically can make decisions on my behalf, and knows what I would do in situations. And I'm like, well, you've been my friend for, 23 something years, like my best bud for so long. And I definitely know you. So it was crazy though, because I had no previous knowledge of anything dealing with construction, like at all. So I basically was thrown into it, and he looks at me, he's like, don't worry, man, you'll figure it all out. And I'm like, what, figure it? Like, dude, this is like so different than anything I've done. Cause I've worked restaurant jobs, and I've worked server jobs and things like that, but it was never, behind the scenes and building and all that. So yeah, a few months in, I like realized that I had amassed this huge collection of tools and know how everything works and know like what to do with it. And it's like, what is going on? So, and now it's like I build different things for my house, and I've become like a handyman, Mr. Fix-It kind of guy, and it's the weirdest thing ever, but it's awesome. It's like this. At 35 years old, I've learned a totally new skill that's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Man,
and I think I think it's cool.
That's amazing. No, that's so cool. I love like that you've learned this new trade and you can do so many more things with it, and I'm sure that you're going to build some absolutely incredible things. And so what are you doing now? What are you working on now? What are your plans for the coming months, the coming years?
So for Foxtail, we've got a bunch of stores in the pipeline that we're currently, either in the process of building or going through permitting to start building. With photography, I'm still doing, whatever I basically projects that come to me or products that I want to be involved in. I'm definitely doing it as much as I can. Like I just got done photographing Playlist Live, which is, it was a 10-year anniversary of Playlist Live, and I've shot it 9 of those 10 years, which is really cool that I've been a part of that family for so long. And also, oddly enough, this year, that knowledge of building really helped out because myself and my fiance were able to build out these huge photo walls that went into the green room that all the creators were loving, taking photos on. So I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. So thank you, Bex. You rock my world. But yeah, we were able to use that knowledge and then mix the photography into it, So that was awesome. I recently have done a few photo shoots that I can't quite talk about yet because we're waiting on edits to be called out for, and I'm sure you understand how that works. Like, can't really say who it is or what it is until it comes out,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that'll be stuff that's being announced soon, but it's really cool, like real cool 90s awesome cool stuff. But yeah, and then Krang has actually been hitting me back up a little bit recently, so I've got a few things on the books for them as well coming up.
My last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
There's a lot of things. Okay. Man, there's a lot of things. Never work for free, because when you do that, it basically sets a precedent that, unless it's for your friends, like if it's for your friends and family, you can do it at the beginning when you're figuring stuff out. But for an actual company, if an actual company hits you up and it's like, hey, we'll give you this like t-shirt for a photo shoot, like, no, don't do it. Ask for money or ask for some kind of product in return. Make sure that you're giving yourself value to your work, because everyone's work is worth something. You might think that you're a new photographer out there and your work's not as good as you want it to be, but trust me, your work is worth something. So never devalue yourself and never let people take advantage of you. A good thing that I think that every photographer and artist out there in general should be aware of, that I didn't know at the beginning, is copyright law. Like if you can educate yourself into copyright law and knowing the different ins and outs of certain things, like, to know, because some of us out there have had times when images have been used without our permission for merchandise or other things, and you're able to go after those people and get paid for it if that happens, because as long as you didn't sign anything away that says that they have the right to use it, then you own the photo, you own the image. You obviously can't make merchandise of your favorite band that you took photos for, because that's commercial usage on that end. But you could definitely sell the images to your favorite band so they can make merchandise. What else? There's so many things. Always charge your batteries. You never know when they're going to die. Always have extra batteries. Oh, always have double backups of your work. So if you have your stuff on a hard drive and you think it's good, it's not. Put it on a second hard drive just in case, because these things break. It's technology. I've lost weddings. It's not fun. Always have multiple backups of your work, whether it's online like Blackblaze or something like that. This is not a paid sponsorship whatsoever, or Google Drive or whatever you can put your stuff on to keep it backed up. Have multiple backups. What else, Kay?
Man, that was a lot right there. No, that's awesome. Like, that was a great answer. All those things are super helpful. Can you talk a little bit about social media? Like how that comes into play with your photography and how it's benefited you, or how it's maybe distracted you from the real world?
Both of those things. Yeah. I never was really great at utilizing social media the right way. I kind of got like this huge social media pop on my account when I was on tour with Sleeping with Sirens, because basically those guys were always awesome. And every time they would post a photo, they would, put my tag in the description, in the caption. So, their fans could click on it and then follow me. And they literally did it every time they posted a photo. Each member had hundreds of thousands, if not a million plus followers. So, so my following on Instagram kind of like jumped rather quickly to like right around 55K. And when that happened, like really cool stuff started coming my way. But then once I stopped touring with Sleeping with Sirens, then I just had this massive amount of Sleeping with Sirens fans. So then I would post like, a Foo Fighters photo, and people would be like, cool, 150 people liked it. And it's like, my account looks like I paid for a bunch of followers.
Wow.
Even though that wasn't the case at all, So I don't really know. I still haven't mastered it. Now that I'm, engaged in living a more normal life, you would say, I'm posting more, just personal stuff and stuff that is more just cool things we're doing, whatnot. But I'm still like, throwing in photos and videos and stuff like that of shoots and things like that. But so I think now, like, the people who have stuck around and haven't unfollowed, like, are getting we're bringing it back up. But yeah, social media can be really distracting. A lot of people care too much about what they post, how much they post, and they get too into like, how am I going to either monetize this or ensure that I keep my followers? And now at 36, I'm just like, screw it. Like, I'll post whatever I want. If people like it, they like it, and if they don't, they don't. And I can't like let myself worry about it too much these days because I've got more important things to worry about, like my family that I'm going to be starting. So yeah, I don't know if that helps at all, but
No, yeah. I just wanted to hear your insight about social media in general. So thank you for sharing that. If people want to find you, get in touch with you, or pick your brain some more, how can they do that? Where can they find you online?
So you guys can go to my website at grizzlymartin.com. That's GRIZZLEE Martin, MARTIN.com. Also, my Instagram is @GrizzlyMartin. My Twitter is @GrizzlyMartin. And what else? I've been TikToking a little bit. I've been trying to figure it out, and it's really difficult to figure out because I don't get it because I'm too old now. But I can't say that. I'm not. There's like 60-year-olds on there that are going viral. So yeah, TikTok is Grizzly Martin too, if you want to TikTok with me.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on to Project Freelance and sharing your insight with everybody.
No problem. Thank you, Kay. And thank you also for all the amazing behind the scenes videos that you have done for some of my shoots through the years. I just wanted to throw this in that I've been posting a few of them and that I love your work so much. So thank you so much for being there for me, doing that, and being an awesome friend. You're the best.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that a ton. I've loved working with you. And hey, if you ever need anything from me, hit me up. I would love to do more stuff with you. And I'm now a certified drone pilot, so I will not crash my drone into the band. Holy crap, I love this guy. Thank you, Grizzly, for coming on the podcast. I had a blast talking to you and hearing your story. I felt like I was a little awkward in this episode. I don't know why, but thank you guys for listening to it anyway. I appreciate it. Grizzly, thanks for putting up with my awkwardness in this episode. I really, really appreciate it. If you guys did enjoy this episode, hit that subscribe button. Come back next week for another episode of Project Freelance. And if you really enjoyed it, leave some feedback for me and I'll send you a signed photo print. All you have to do is leave feedback on the Apple Podcasts app or on Spotify and send me a screenshot of your feedback through Instagram at Project Freelance. You can just send me a DM and I will see it there. And then I will send you a signed photo print to your house, to your office, to your school, wherever it is you want me to send it, I will send it. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Project Freelance. My name is Kay Anagonio, and I am your host here. Come back next week for more, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every single Monday. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, and go create something.